And welcome everyone to Flicker Effect, episode 361. We are recording this and broadcasting live on Monday, March 1st, 2021. I'm David Lott. Joining me, as always, is Bobby Jackson.
Hey guys, how's it going?
And Michelle Hibbard.
Hi everyone. Hello.
Hello.
Happy
How's
March
it going,
1st.
guys? Happy March 1st.
March 1st.
I know.
Just think where we were a year ago today.
Just getting into the whole thing, actually.
And to our new life.
This is where we
Yeah,
start
it's
having
kind
the
of interesting.
So where we're having the conversations of, should we go stock up on toilet paper and paper towels and water? I don't know. Should we? I don't know. Should we? I don't know. What do you think? What do you
I
think?
think we were like, oh, are we going to go to San Diego Comic-Con this year? Oh, wait.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. It's like at this point last year, we were just starting to roll into the whole COVID thing and pandemic.
No.
And now, in a year later, almost to the date, we're kind of sort of starting to roll out of it. So it's kind of a...
Don't
it's
jinx
like,
it.
right?
Knock on wood.
Well, yeah, of course. I don't want to jinx anything, but I mean, the numbers are supporting the fact that it is going down, and there's vaccinations, and the Johnson & Johnson just got approved, and so we're squeaking out of it slowly but surely. But yeah, everyone stay vigilant, please, and so we can get out of it for sure and get back to things. I'm already a little depressed that they've already announced that San Diego Comic-Con is done for this year, at least with the one in July. But they mentioned that they're going to have one in November, a 3-day one. So I'm very curious what that'll be about.
I'll fly out to San Diego in November. That's fine with me. No problem with that.
Heck yeah, all day.
Just don't put it too close to Thanksgiving, but I don't think they would do that. It'd be like after Halloween, I assume.
They could put it right on Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
I would not
think.
care. Like, it's fine. It's great.
Maybe less people would go. We'd have a chance to actually get a badge for it.
I
Right?
super couldn't care if it was on
So sure,
Thanksgiving.
yeah, Thanksgiving weekend sounds awesome. Do
Sounds
it.
great. Let's do this.
Yeah. Michelle's like, screw the family. I'm going to Comic-Con.
I mean, like, I like Thanksgiving, but honestly, like, it's kind of low on the totem pole for me. I'm kind of like, it's fine. It's a meal. It's fine.
A what hole?
Meal.
Would you
A
just-
meal.
Oh, I just said a meat
Yeah, I
hole.
thought I did it.
It's like a what?
It didn't sound like really.
It's a meat hole.
It was one of those I was just going to let it go, but Bobby jumped on, so.
I must be sleepier than I think I am. No, I said meal. It's just a meal to me. Like, it's just a
Gotcha.
meal. Like a
Fair
big
enough.
meal. Like, I'm cool with it. I can have a meal with my family literally any day I want to. And be appreciative of the things in my life that I have.
That's true.
This is true.
We should be doing it every day. It should be Thanksgiving every day. In our hearts. Anyways, San Diego Comic-Con.
Canceled.
Canceled.
Now we just cross our fingers for Dragon Con. Dragon Con is still at that weird point in the year right now that it's like,
And-
I don't want to get my hopes up.
Yeah.
At the same time, I am optimistic based on like what you said just a second ago, Bobby. Like numbers are dropping, vaccines are coming out. But then also Dragon Con it's one of those weird conventions where you could see it either way. In one sense, it's not a San Diego where it's such a big international production that you can totally see why they're just canceling it for now. On the other hand, Dragon Con is it's a big convention, but at the same but compared to San Diego, it's more kind of indie and
Yeah.
I don't know. It's smaller and it doesn't have the big studio presence and stuff.
Right.
But then on the flip side, you could have imagined a San Diego Comic-Con where they would have found a way to still have it, but it'd be very different. Like half the amount of people would be there, and like the amount of people they would let out on the exhibit floor would be greatly reduced at specific times. You'd get like
Panels
you
would
would
be
get
smaller.
assigned a time where you get to go out on the floor, and
right.
they would have walkways like cordoned off which direction you can go. Dragon Con, they're just forget it. There's no way. Like
It
it's
doesn't work that
because
way.
it's just a big the experience is such that the way it's held in these hotels and the way people just party at Dragon Con, if they tried to do something like that, people would just probably, not everyone, but a lot of people would be like, I'm good. I'm not interested in
Right.
that.
But the upside is that it's on Labor Day weekend every year. And
Right.
Labor Day weekend it's in September this year. Like it's it's not even August, it's September. So we still get it's like we get an extra week of pushback in time.
Yeah.
So it's like we get one more week to maybe.
I'm crossing my fingers. I think it'll happen, but
It'd be really cool if it did.
but then, I mean, again, knocking on wood, you never know. Like in 2 months, who knows what'll happen.
Yeah.
So
Oh, coronavirus.
At this point, I'm really just looking forward to having something that you guys have pretty much had this whole time, and that's the ability to go to the theater. I mean, I'm really jonesing to go to the theater with some of these movies starting to come out, and assuming they don't push any more things that are supposed to be slated to come out in spring, then I would really be hoping to be able to go to the theater. One of the movies coming up here soon would be Kong versus Godzilla, and if I have the opportunity to go watch that in a theater, like especially in IMAX, then I'm going to jump on that. But we're probably it's going to be a close call. I imagine we can get to that tier where we would be able to open the theaters by mid-March, maybe late March, towards the end of the month, right when it might be able to open. So there's nothing to say that if the theaters open maybe first week of April that they can't show Kong versus Godzilla, that they wouldn't, ship those, Warner Brothers wouldn't send those out to the theaters to see if people would watch it. But it's close because if it's already available on HBO Max within that first weekend that it comes out, maybe most people will watch it that way and wouldn't bother to go see it in the theater. But if you can get it right around at the same time, maybe you'll get more people. Well, I wouldn't say more people because it's going to be reduced capacity anyway, but you'll get some people who would go see it in the theater, like myself, that will go and watch it there as opposed to watch it at home. We'll see.
I still don't understand. I mean, I understand, but it's like when I think about movie theaters, especially movie theaters today, it's not like going to the movie theater back in the 80s or the 90s where there were much smaller rooms. The chairs were right next to each other. There was no assigned seating. So it's like in today's modern world, there are huge auditoriums, huge space. And yeah, it's recirculated air, but there's a lot of room for that air to move around. And we have reserved seating. You could space everybody out. I'm surprised that it's not reestablished yet in California.
Yeah,
I think it's hard for me to wrap my head the fact that they aren't going, okay, look, these certain types of theaters, if they fall under this kind of criteria, can do it with reserved seating and yada yada, and go through all the protocols that we have, and that's fine. But I'm I still can't believe that California doesn't have movie theaters right now, or at least half of the theaters open. I don't know. It surprises me.
Yeah. I agree.
Anywho. That's enough about coronavirus.
Yeah. Bobby, got anything for us this week?
Yeah.
Oh. I don't know. I mean, I think we our thumbnail says it all, I guess.
Yeah.
It does.
I think we all saw a movie.
Yeah.
A same movie.
We did.
We did. We also saw Nomadland, which is available on Hulu right now. Mm-hmm. Which it's funny, we just had this conversation about, you're dying to go to a movie theater, Bobby, and here we can go to movie theaters, and it's funny. We've been talking a lot about our local art house cinema that we both go to, and they're getting a lot of these movies that now are also popping up on either VOD or Hulu, like Nomadland. I'm like, I could have seen Nomadland in the theater, but then I was like, oh, well, it's on Hulu. And as much as I do feel comfortable going to that movie theater and other movie theaters right now, based on the way they're handling things, if given the choice with a movie like Nomadland, I'm like, I'm going to watch it at home. And then is it Minari? I always feel like I'm saying that name wrong, but that's now available on VOD. It's $20 rental, but I'm like, Yeah, I could just watch this at home.
Yeah.
I'm dying to see that movie. Haven't seen it yet. I only saw Nomadland, but yeah.
I feel like we are reserving our movie theater experiences for the most part. I feel like for big blockbusters.
Right.
Yeah, it's for really big
Yeah.
visual effects, sound effects. Like I feel like that's where I'm going. I mean, I really wanted to see Wonder Woman 84 in the theater, and I did, and I'm glad that I saw it in the theater. Honestly, I really am. So I think we're kind of reserving okay, let's go to the theater for the big ones. When it's kind of more art housey films, more indie films, I think it's more like, I can see that at home. That's fine. Like, it doesn't need the big scope. Now, if I were to see an indie film that, was basically just getting rave reviews about the cinematography and how sweeping it is, I might be like, maybe we should go see it in the theater then, sure, fine. But overall, yeah, going to a theater is for the big boys.
So,
Yeah.
Michelle,
No.
tell us about Nomadland. What do you think? And can you tell us about the movie?
Yeah, I should have pulled it up. And I can't think of the actress's name now. My brain is...
Frances McDormand.
Frances McDormand, yeah.
Thank you. Frances McDormand plays a character who, through some interesting events in life, has found herself living out of a van. And during this time, instead of just kind of hunkering down in one place, she is going to different areas based on weather and region and locality and availability to just get like kind of like simplistic part-time jobs that basically just keep her afloat. And in her travels, she meets people in similar situations, either by force or by choice. They have decided to live out of a van or a bus or an RV, a much more simplistic lifestyle. And so they all just kind of slowly move and migrate around based on weather and climate and job availability. And it follows her in the course of a year, and you kind of see what she goes through. And so yeah, that's the story.
What did you
And
think?
one
of it?
interesting thing about that,
Oh yeah.
I was just going to say one interesting thing about that. I don't know if you guys knew it. You probably did since you watched the movie, but that the nomads in the movie, they were real people that lived this lifestyle. They weren't just actors for the movie. There might have been a couple other actual actors, but for the most part, the people that she interacted with were people who were really living that lifestyle.
Yep.
Right.
And it's interesting. I'm saying what I think, and last night was the Golden Globes, and it won for Best Dramatic Film.
And the director,
And the director.
unfortunately, I don't know her name.
Chloe Zhao.
Won for Best Directing.
Yeah. So I mean, it's getting awards. I thought the movie was fine.
Oh,
Like, I don't know if it's because maybe I'm more aware of this kind of a lifestyle, I guess. And it doesn't seem shocking or new to me in any way, shape, or form. But it was interesting. If anything, it was nice to kind of see her story that over the year she kind of realizes she needs to continue moving through her grief and that she's been harboring and living within this grief time period of her life, and she just needs to be living for herself and not living for a memory of a person. And so that was an interesting thing with the story that I really enjoyed seeing that get conveyed. And it goes through some of the hardships that she goes through, temperatures dropping, the possibility of freezing. These things are all really real when you live this kind of lifestyle. But and I really, really like Frances McDormand. I think she was really fine in it. Like, I don't think she was bad. I didn't think she did a spectacular performance. I've seen her in spectacular performances. I think the story, the film, all of it was fine. It was good. It was entertaining. It just didn't do anything really for me personally. I don't think there's anything wrong with the film. It had no impact to me, like in a way. As far as the actual nomadic lifestyle goes and the culture of it. Like, I was watching it, I'm like, yeah, this is what they do. Yeah, like, again, and maybe if I just have that exposure, maybe people have never even have no realization that people live this lifestyle. They're probably like, man, this is incredible. Like, maybe they take something completely different away from it. But for me, I was kind of like, okay, yeah. Like, I don't know. It didn't do anything too strong an emotion effect on me. That's all I can say. So it's not a bad film. It's a good film. I don't really see what all the hullabaloo about the film is kind of getting, but maybe I must be missing something. I feel like I'm missing the thing that everybody seems to be just absolutely gravitating towards with this one. And after watching it that night, I was like, am I missing something? And like the next day, I'm like, I must be missing something because it was the Golden Globe last night. I'm like, I must be missing something about this film. And I've been thinking about it today, and I'm like, I guess I just don't get it. I don't know. But that's my take on it, and I'm not crapping on the film at all. It's just, I think it's me.
Well,
so
first of all, you brought up the Golden Globes and using it as an example of maybe you're crazy because, I mean, also it won Golden Globes. And, I mean, we'll get into the Golden Globes later.
Golden Globes, but it won, was Tribeca, right?
Oh, I don't know.
Sundance? Something?
I don't know.
It got something.
I don't know if it won something else, but
Yeah.
I know it
got
came
something
out
else.
pretty highly touted in some of
Yeah.
the awards or some of the
It showed up on a lot of top 10 lists.
It won a film
yeah.
festival, and I can't think of which one it is.
But we're also talking about the Golden Globes, and we'll get to that later. But
yeah, we'll get to that one later.
But I'll go ahead and say real quick, maybe it'll make you feel better. I feel basically the same way about the movie. Like,
thank God.
We watched it, and it's one of those movies that I couldn't begrudge anyone for really loving this movie and it speaking to them in some way, because there's nothing bad about the film. It's a good movie.
Yes.
But when I don't know if it's an expectations issue when I'm going into this movie with the accolades I've heard for it, seeing it on so many top 10 lists, and I watched it and it's not bad. It's a good movie, but it didn't speak to me in a bigger sense that made me go, oh yeah, I would have put this on my top 10. Like, I'll say right off the bat, there's no way this movie would have made my top 10.
No way.
And again, to anyone, if Bobby, if you're included, you haven't shared your thoughts yet, but to anyone who is like, no, this movie was fantastic, easily the best movie of the year, I'm like, great. Like,
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
I would never think to try to convince anyone otherwise with this movie. There are other movies that maybe I'd be like, okay, come on, you got to be kidding me here. But Nomadland is not one of them. I mean, it's a good movie that just didn't speak to me, I guess. And again,
that's where I'm at.
I don't know what it is. It's a fine story. It just, I don't know. It told a story that I like going into it. Same thing. I'm like, okay, I understand that. I know people live this way, and I'm curious to see what about this lifestyle that this movie is going to present to me. And what it presented to me was not anything beyond kind of what I already knew and expected of the movie. I guess I expected more. I don't know. And I would agree with her performance. Her performance is good, but it wasn't standout, I think, by any stretch of the imagination. So,
like when I think of her performances in many of her other films, when you look at Fargo, when you look at Three Billboards, like she killed me in Three Billboards. Like, that was amazing. And she didn't do anything like incorrect or anything. Like, I didn't like not believe her in this role. She didn't pull me in with a gut emotional feeling, I think, as she has in the past with other roles.
Right.
I'm with you. I don't begrudge anybody for enjoying it. I think you enjoy it. That's awesome. But it didn't hit me.
Yeah. All right, Bobby.
So, Bobby, what do you think?
Well, what did you
think?
think?
He's like, well, I thought it was amazing.
Yeah, so I think the interesting thing in what you guys are saying is that whole idea of expectations based on what we were hearing from other critics who had a chance to see it during festival season. So it's an interesting thing where you do hear those thoughts and it's making everyone's top 10 list. So there's that expectation is this is probably going to be the movie of the year that I'm watching here. And you go into it with a certain level of, all right, movie, show me why you're so good kind of thing. And I think I probably went into it with a little bit of that expectation as well. But I think for me, I'm not used to this lifestyle, and I've never really seen it portrayed before, and so it's a new idea and concept presented to me. And I think one of the things that really struck me about the movie was how well Frances McDormand is able to just kind of act in such an effortless manner. It's almost not like she's even acting. She's so good at times, and it's just the way she interacts with these other nomads. And I don't think that the role particularly called for her to go to specific places. It wasn't structured in that way. It's almost in a documentary style to a certain degree, without being a documentary. But I think that overall, I would say I do agree with you guys in that it's a fine movie. It's decent. There's nothing wrong with it. I just don't think it's spectacular. It definitely wouldn't make my top 10 list. And I honestly feel like I'll be a little upset if it did win Best Picture at the Oscars. I don't think that there's, with all the other movies that are out there that I've seen so far, I would not say, like, for me, still based on my top 10 list of this year that we did, Sound of Metal would be my pick for the Oscars, and it got like
Fully agree.
I don't barely a notice. It seemed like at the Golden Globes. So I don't know. I'll be, and then I started seeing articles saying that maybe this is the front runner now because it won at the Globes, and I'm like, man, I hope not, because then that means they really didn't pay attention to anything else that was out there this year or this past year. So yeah, I agree with you guys. I think that it's a fine movie, and I like the fact that I saw it and got exposed to something that I wasn't familiar with, and to see this story being told. But aside from that, I didn't get any sort of, like Michelle said, an emotional pull from it necessarily. It was just like, oh, okay, this is interesting. I didn't know this, and so thank you for exposing me to this that I wasn't aware of. And that was about the extent of it for me. It didn't go too much further than that. I didn't get too wrapped up in it in any sort of way, but I guess that's maybe by design because it wasn't really a lot there in terms of specific turmoil and any kind of danger situation that really elicits a lot of specific emotion because of placing that main character in any kind of issues where you would kind of be on the edge of your seat. There's not that, it's not that kind of movie. So I think that from a standpoint of just being a story that's done and told and done in a way and fashion that highlights this experience, I think it does well. But beyond that, as far as maybe if you wanted to say in terms of an entertaining movie, you're it's not going to give you that kind of experience necessarily. Like David said, I guess if it could move you from a certain perspective based on this, the way it's being told, and if you're not experienced with it, but I don't know that the average person would necessarily grab that or get that. And maybe they would, but that's just my speculation on it. But overall, I think that it's, I could see why they're going towards it, but I would be surprised for myself if it did come away with the Oscar. So I'll be very curious to see where this movie ends up placing once we get to the award season.
No, I fully agree. Like when I heard that Nomadland won for the best picture, the best drama, I was surprised. I mean, like I see it, I understand it, but at the same time, when I look at all of our top 10 lists for this year, it's hard. I don't think anybody's really like super right or super wrong, but God, yeah, there's other films that I think would speak to a broader audience that would feel the emotional pull that I think when I think of Oscar Best Picture, I feel like most people, an average grand group of people, would all feel a very certain way about that film in a huge emotional way, kind of, you know? Like, when I think of Sound of Metal, like, ugh, that movie was amazing, you know? And I think anybody who would give it the chance to watch it, I think they'd be like, wow, why isn't this being talked about? This catches me, you know? I think it catches a lot of people. And so, yeah, I don't know. I just feel like there's other films that, I don't know, it'll be interesting to see come Oscar time.
So to your note of what you're saying as far as other films, I was thinking about, in particular, like because it almost feels like a documentary that I saw that I feel like would outpace this one if it was to go up against it would be Dick Johnson Is Dead, right? So
Right.
that one feels more
Exactly.
like it has an emotional pull. It tells a full story, and it's shot in such a interesting and unique way. I think it does more for that perspective if it was a documentary. If you're playing it as just an actual straight up movie, a movie that I only recently saw within the last year that I felt like is maybe doing some of the similar things in the way of sort of traveling around is I think it's called Into the Wild, right? Is that the one with Emil Hirsch when he goes into the woods and
yes.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I
on a
think
true story,
that's
yeah.
a better movie in that sense. Yeah, based on a true story than even this, and sort of doing that same sort of nomadic kind of thing. And there's even instances where that character meets people, you know, in what you would call it sort of in a camp, and there's like people that are living freely, and it just felt like, yeah, I was pulled in more to that story, even more so than this one. Again, not saying that this is bad in any sort of way. It's just that I've seen sort of variations on it that I think maybe pulled me in more than this one did.
Yeah. No, like, yeah, when it comes to Oscar season, like, I just, you know, Sound of Metal, Trial of the Chicago 7, what is it? FBI versus Billie Holiday. Who is it? I forget.
United States.
United States versus Billie Holiday. I mean, yeah, I feel like the list goes on for other films I think could and should be nominated. And I don't mean to crap on Nomadland, but I'm like,
Right.
I don't see it. And the fact that the three of us are kind of going, it's good, but it's not that good.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyways.
I don't know either.
Sorry, I don't really poop on Nomadland too much, but
So did you watch the Golden Globes, Bobby?
we
I
should
did.
jump into
Well, to be fair, I watched it, and then I also like fast forwarded past
Okay.
parts
Okay.
that was like, I don't really care. So,
So you're kind of
so I
watching it
did
after the
in
fact, or?
Well, yeah, because I think I had it recorded, and so then I just came home and then fast forwarded through stuff, and even was kind of just watching it at I think 1.75 speed. So I was like really trying to get through that thing as fast as possible.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did essentially watch it. I mean, if there was someone I didn't really recognize, and I might go past it, but you could say I watched it.
We watched it for
Half
how
an hour?
long? I think it was a half an hour. And luckily
Wow.
we agreed. I was like, this is unwatchable. Like, I thought it was really bad. Like,
It's
considering
not good.
we watched the Emmys last year during the pandemic.
Kind of, yeah.
Kind of, but I feel like even from what I watched of the Emmys, and maybe unless I'm thinking of something else, I feel like they actually did a decent job of
Yeah.
handling the situation of doing like a virtual award show, and it was actually done in an entertaining way. Mm-hmm. And I'm not even a big Emmys guy. Like,
Right.
I don't really watch the Emmys every year. It's kind of like, if I happen to have nothing to do, I watch it.
Well,
But
yeah, you know, we had it on and we were recording a show, and like Schitt's Creek was just killing it.
I feel like I particularly remember that I was like, oh wow, I feel like, considering the situation, the Emmys is doing a decent job of making this at least, you know, an entertaining watch. And then I tried to watch the Golden Globes for 30 minutes, and I just thought it was just unwatchably bad. Like, just the technical difficulties, and then the situation of, you know, celebrities in their homes, which I should say and make clear, I completely agree with the plan for how they handled, you know, not doing it all in a room together.
Yeah.
But with that said, I think it just could have been done in a better way. I mean, we talked about this a little bit last night. You know, I was like, it's funny to me that, you know, unless they want the kind of atmosphere to be like this on purpose, but like everyone had just like these terrible kind of camera setups in their homes to watch them react. And you would almost think that the Golden Globes or NBC would like kind of pay for better camera setups at every person's house. Unless, and my comment last night was like, unless they were going for this kind of look on purpose, like it feels like a more authentic, like, hey, we're all on Zoom kind of situation.
We're all in this together, like, at home, Zooming.
Yeah, like unless that's what they wanted, because sometimes it was like hard to understand what a celebrity who was giving their acceptance speech was even saying, I found.
Yeah, like the mics were horrible, the cameras were horrible, the lighting was horrible. Like,
I also don't really understand what kind of was the idea behind, hey, let's do this bi-coastal situation where we have a host at each place. I mean, maybe in someone's mind that seemed like, hey, we're going to change things up and this will be fun, but I don't, in practice, like, I don't understand what the point behind that was.
Was it because they could have some presenters physically there in New York and some presenters who physically live in LA, and they can all physically go and do at least the presentation part?
I don't know.
I don't know, but it just seems stupid to me. I mean, I'm sorry, it just was dumb. I agree. Like, we were watching it and I'm like, I can't watch this. Like, it's, you know, some people are washed out from the lighting. Some people are fuzzy from the crappy cameras. Some people, I think, were literally using their cell phones from 5 years ago. Like, it just, the idea that it was trying to appeal to, well, everybody's doing this. Everybody's working from home. Everybody's using their computer cameras. Yes, we are. And one of the wonderful, fun, great things about award shows is that it's an escapism from the reality of life that you are living in for only a few short hours. So for me to be living the same exact thing in the thing that's supposed to make me escape from it, no. I get it. Keep them at home, totally fine. Keep them in a hotel room, totally fine. Send a nice camera. Send somebody to set up some microphones, clip them, mic them, throw on a half-decent light from Amazon, and at least put some effort into it. Like, it just, God, I couldn't watch it. I just couldn't watch it. And I don't mind. Like, some people dressed up in really nice gowns and said, screw it. I'm going to get my hair done and my makeup done. Cool. Other people said, I took a shower and I put on some nice clothes and we're going to go with that. Some people said, I just look like I changed my clothes today, and that's totally fine. I'm okay with that. But honestly, the actual quality of what we were getting, total crap. Just, no. I couldn't do it. No.
Yeah.
No.
I had less of an issue with that aspect and more of an issue with the way that it just didn't have a good flow to it, in my opinion.
One of the negatives.
Yeah, my main big criticism and cringy moments is the fact that whenever they announce the winner, you'd get the winner and they'd be doing their speech, but then it would cut to all the people who just lost and they're listening to the winner speak. I'm like, that's so weird. Like, now they have to sit there with that face and like they're really happy when they're probably just thinking about the fact that they just lost, and the camera's on them as well, as opposed to just being specifically. It's not like they win. every now and then when they'll do like someone winning, they'll cut to the crowd of someone who was in that category or whatnot. But this is like all of them who lost, and it's just sort of a weird thing to see their faces while the winner is giving their speech and reacting to it. So I found that off-putting.
I fully agree.
It was just like oh,
I even pointed out there was one, and I don't even remember what award it was for, and it's the person's giving the acceptance speech, and I'm looking at them, and like Jared Leto was, you could tell his face was just like, can I turn it off now? Can I turn it off now? Now? Do I turn it off now? Can I turn it off? Like he was just dying. You could tell he was like, well, I didn't win. I'm ready to turn it off. Like it was the most awkward thing to watch. And I'm like, they're all just sitting there at home going, can I turn it off now? Can I turn it off now? I don't want to be on camera now. Like, it's done. My night's over. We're good. I'm going to go home or I'm just going to turn this off and get my jammies and pour a glass of wine and I'll watch the rest of it. Sure. But yeah, no. So much no.
And that's just like you said, one component, and the awards themselves, who won the awards and stuff like that, is
that's
always
a whole other thing.
It's always debatable and questionable, but yeah, it's just I think add all these things together, and it just didn't make for a good show. And I think half the fun of the Golden Globes in and of itself is the fact that they're all there in that room drinking. And then there's like shenanigans and stuff that tends to happen in that specific show because of those circumstances. But to take that out of the equation, then you're left with a show that's not very good in general, like without that component. So doing it this way even makes it worse because of the logistics of it, and it's just not it just has no good flow to it. So yeah, it was definitely a bad one, but some of it's out of their control, some of it was in their control, and they just didn't do a good job with what they did have in their control.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more with that too. Like, I mean, I've made it very clear I've never been a big fan of the Golden Globes in terms of the actual awards. I think we can all agree, most people agree, that a lot of their choices for nominees and actual winners are fairly questionable. I mean, we're talking about a situation, for those who don't know, where, I mean, the voting body is like 87 members of the Hollywood Foreign Press Association versus like the Oscars, where you have many thousands of people who are voting depending on the category. These are people that work in the craft, like
from all fields within the craft,
right? All
the guilds.
So yeah, when it comes to the Golden Globes and the actual awards, it's always like, okay, whatever. But the one thing that's entertaining about that award show versus others is it feels like kind of a party. It's in this big kind of dining room and everyone's eating and drinking and, kind of like hanging out together. And they tried to mimic that, I guess, a little bit last night. Like they would go to like, hey, we're going to commercial, and they would like show like 5, I guess the upcoming nominees, and they could kind of like interact with each other via Zoom or whatever. And it was just awkward and odd.
Super awkward.
Yeah, it wasn't.
It was an experiment that did not work. In one sense, I kind of feel bad because it's like, hey, we're all kind of figuring out how to handle things like this during a pandemic, and I know it's not the best situation for them, but what they tried was a failure. I hope they don't have to do it again. Hopefully next year they will be able to have a normal Golden Globes, and we can just kind of shit on the actual awards and not the the presentation.
Yeah.
But this year it was a kind of a double whammy.
Do we want to talk about any of the awards?
Exactly.
I mean, what do you want to talk about? It's funny. I didn't even, because we didn't watch it. I didn't really know most of the winners until I woke up this morning and I started kind of looking around. There's probably a lot I haven't even heard.
I basically didn't check in until this morning. Last night, when we decided to stop watching it, I checked out completely. I didn't even get on Instagram to like follow it or anything. I was just like, yeah, I'm fine, or Twitter or anything. I was just like, yeah, I'm good. I'll find out in the morning. I think my biggest what was Best Picture in a Musical or Comedy.
Oh.
Do you know what it was?
It was Borat, wasn't it?
It was Borat.
Yeah.
The second Borat film. And I'm not saying that I hated that film or totally disliked it, but if I look at the other nominees that it was up against, what in God's name made y'all pick Borat? There was other nominees that were way better comedies, way better. Oh God, I had a hard time wrapping my head around that one. But then there was some really great wins, you know. Chadwick Boseman's posthumous win, and his wife did the acceptance for it. I thought that was really sweet. It was really beautiful. I I saw a little clip from it this morning, and I was like, oh, this is awesome. No, it was really good. You should watch a clip of that one.
Yeah, I haven't seen that.
You know, there were some good things out of there, and for best actor in a series, it went to, I can't think of his name, Ted Lasso.
Oh, Jason Sudeikis.
It went to Jason Sudeikis for Ted Lasso. And he was up against Dan Levy from Schitt's Creek. And honestly, I was kind of like, I feel like this should be more of a coin toss between the two of them. But I was like, honestly, as much as I love Dan Levy and I love Schitt's Creek, Jason Sudeikis and Ted Lasso, I was like, looking at the rest of the other nominees, I was like, nope, this one was spot on. When I compare, I was like, no, he was totally deserving of that award.
Right.
So there were some things that I think were correct and accurate, and accolades, and if you were to compare people and their performances, yeah. But then there was stuff like Borat winning for the best comedy or musical, and I'm like, really? That's what we got? okay, whatever.
Yeah.
And then what was it? Andra Day. Is it Andra or Andrea? Andra.
I think it's Andra.
Yeah, Andra Day for playing Billie Holiday in the U.S. versus Billie Holiday. I was like, I haven't even seen this film, and I just keep hearing about how spectacular her performance is. So I'm like, I'm gonna have to agree with this one too. I give it to him because I keep hearing how amazing she is in it, and I'm like, I cannot disagree. And I haven't even seen the film, and I do want to watch it. Anyways, so no, it was just interesting. Some of the winners, yeah. Hollywood Foreign Press, I don't understand you. And hopefully, yeah, you guys clean up your game on getting, things like diversity in your group. Things like that.
I will say the two things that I did enjoy seeing were two people that I am fond of. One was that Norman Lear had got the, I think, Carol Burnett award,
he did?
or what it's called. And he's awesome just because his body of work that he's done on television for I don't know how long it's been, but yeah, he's just got an immense body of work that's fantastic of stuff. So I appreciated seeing him talk, and he's like 90 something, so
he's a legend.
Gotta appreciate him while they're here, kind of thing. And then the other one was Jane Fonda. Her speech I thought was pretty good too. And
I didn't hear hers.
Her hearing. It's pretty good. Yeah.
Really?
And she does a good job of talking about all the other movies that were nominated and how she's seen them and what she got from them. And it's a good speech. And so I really enjoyed hers as well. And then some of the stuff that you mentioned also, Michelle, I enjoyed. But yeah, outside of that, I'd say maybe there's like 4 or 5 things I enjoyed about it. And the rest was like,
right.
Okay.
We could leave it.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Golden Globes, COVID.
So I guess we all watched Superman and Lois too, huh?
We
did.
The TV
We
show.
did.
Right?
I watched the show.
So
I was
rich.
kind of saying I had wanted nothing to do with it.
I wanted nothing to do with it.
I could tell. I could tell going into it. I'm like, I wanted to be like, you don't have to watch this.
I
So
was like, I have good feelings about this.
I guess I'll start it off. With Superman, I'm familiar with this particular character and actor playing this version of the character, Tyler Hoechlin, who I think that's how you say his last name. He was in Supergirl. I think it was the second season he showed up, and he was there for a couple episodes. And then he also participated in some of the Arrowverse crossover. And I don't know. I really was okay with him as far as his portrayal of Superman. And from what I saw, what turned me off from him, well, not him, I would say, but it actually turned me off of Supergirl completely. And it was that they made Superman kind of subservient to Supergirl, in that they go out of their way to make sure that people know that this Supergirl was more powerful than Superman, and that she could beat him in a fight. It was just like, it was so bad that the way they try to play up to her because it's her show kind of thing. And I just didn't like the idea that the way that they did that, and even having Superman like talk like, "Oh no, I was at full strength and you still were able." It was like, stop it, stop it. I just couldn't take it. So it completely turned me off of that. And
Yeah, I get
then,
that.
but he did a good job of what, you know, he was given. So when this show came around, I was a little bit interested because I always am in the bag for all of the superhero stuff. I always will watch it and give it a fair shake. And so the trailer is really when I started to get a little bit more interest in it, because it was filmed in a certain cinematic way that you would think this was HBO or something movie quality because of the way it looked. So just having that and having the familiarity with this character, this version of it, and Lois Lane, I was going into it with some not specifically high expectations or anything like that, but I was excited, I guess, to see what they were going to do with it. And I'll say, I'm pretty happy with what they did with it, from the, at least from the standpoint of one, visually, in terms of how well they were able to keep up the special effects, and also that his portrayal of Superman is a version of Superman that I was hoping he would be. Very optimistic, almost kind of like the Boy Scout version, you know, just some of the small touches. And then the thing that I wasn't expecting, and honestly going into it, I had reservations, was the family aspect. Because it is on CW, I felt like, okay, it's going to get in that teen angsty role stuff that is going to make me frustrated, because I hate the way they usually do stuff like that in shows, because it's so over the top, and it becomes so like soap opera in a way, with the way they do some of the teen angst in these shows, especially on CW. So I was like going into it hesitant about that. But honestly, I think, at least within this context, and at least so far within this first episode that we got, that was kind of like maybe an hour and a half, I would say, maybe somewhere around there, that they did a good job of putting Clark slash Superman in a role that he's never been in before, from a standpoint of film or TV. In the comics, he does have a young son named Jonathan, that you see some of those aspects with. But in this, he has two sons, and one has some issues, and then the other one is kind of like this all-American kind of kid. And to see him have to deal with the things that a normal parent would have to deal with, and him not being able just to use his superpowers in a way to solve the day, it makes him more relatable in a way that he hasn't been before for most people. I've always liked him as he is. I've found him to be very relatable in general, just because some people's biggest complaint against the Superman characters, they just say that, you know, he's too powerful. You can't really find an enemy to beat him, and you know, he's too perfect. But I've never seen that, or maybe it's because I've read the comics and I know that they put him up against people who sometimes are more powerful than him, and they put him in situations where he can't just punch his way out of it, and he has to use his brain or do other things other than just being able to be powerful. So it was nice to see some of that from the page kind of come into a show that you don't typically see him having to deal with. So that, and the way it looked, and the special effects and certain things, little touches here and there that they did with the character, I super appreciate it, to make me interested enough to keep up with it and see where it goes. And a lot of times, if you're not familiar with the CW shows, they do a pretty good job for the most part with all of their series for at least the first season. After that, sometimes it can drop pretty quickly, and sometimes it kind of fades after multiple seasons. But they usually do a pretty solid job the first season. And so one of the things I'll be checking for, because I do believe I'll keep up with it, is that will the quality of the show maintain itself throughout the whole season in terms of the visual look. I think it's only, and I say only, but I think it's maybe 15 episodes or somewhere around there, not the typical 22 episodes you get for a network TV show. So maybe they can use that in a way to be able to maintain a nice, good quality for the visual effects. And I think you get that, and then some of the other aspects of what's going on with him being a parent, I think could make for an interesting show. So, and there's other stuff going on as well. There does seem to be an antagonist that will that they introduce in the show. So to see where that goes also. So overall, I was impressed by it, and more so than I thought I would be based on prior experience. But it left me really anticipating to see more from the show and see that they can maintain what they've given so far, at least within this first episode.
Yeah, I was, as I said, I was unsure if I was even going to watch it. It wasn't until, Bobby, you pointed out that the trailer had dropped that I was like, okay, I was even resistant to watching the trailer just because I don't know.
Yeah.
There's that bitter part of me that, Henry Cavill's Superman has been, I guess I would say, so mistreated, and that he hasn't had any more opportunities with that role. And then, okay, fine, they're doing a CW version of Superman. I'm just like, I want the Superman I want. I don't even want the Superman. And I never saw his appearances in Supergirl because I didn't really watch that show. So all I knew of this version of the character were still images. But I watched the trailer and I will say, yeah, okay, all right, this looks interesting. God damn it. I'm like, I'll give it a shot. I will say when it comes to the first episode, I unfortunately watched a version where the stream wasn't very good. The actual visual quality of the presentation wasn't great. So I'll be curious to watch another episode, maybe on a, another format. I don't know if it's available on Hulu to watch, but if it is, maybe
they
I can
do
watch
have it on I don't know how you watched it initially, but they do have it usually the next day on the CW app.
Okay.
And that's free. I don't know.
I watched it.
I had experience with that before, and it's a pretty good app for watching shows. So
yeah, I watched it. I subscribed to YouTube TV and I added it to my library, basically DVR'd it, and I watched that version of it. And that version of it was not great. I don't know if I actually don't use that feature a lot on YouTube TV, to be honest. So I don't know if that's a common thing with them or if it was just this channel or what, but it didn't look good, really. It wasn't so bad that I couldn't watch it. I was able to watch it, but anyway, I digress. The show itself, not to repeat you too much, but I would agree. Overall, it was interesting enough that I'll keep watching it for at least a couple more episodes to see how it is. With CW shows in general, like Arrow and Flash, I watched those shows for the first couple seasons, I think, on each of those shows, and they were solid. And then, like you said, they kind of got to a point that I lost interest in them. And then I would, kind of see advertisements for episodes well past the point that I had stopped and been like, oh yeah, I'm glad I dropped out of that. Like, like, why is everyone a superhero now? Like, what is happening? But anyway, yeah, no, it's at least this is nice to see kind of a different version of a Superman story, not just another, hey, he's in Metropolis and doing the normal Superman kind of things. It's kind of an Elseworlds kind of situation, I guess, where, he's not in Metropolis. He's been fired from the Daily Planet. Yeah, I don't know. It's the family situation is new. And from what I've seen in the first episode, I like him in the role fine. But I I'm basically interested enough that I'll watch some more. It pleased me. I didn't think it was fantastic, but I was pleased with it. What did you think, Michelle?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to piggyback on what you said. Like I wouldn't even go as far as to say like I enjoyed that episode. It was like, okay, you've piqued my interest. I'm curious to see where this could go. Episode 2 and episode 3 are really gonna have to knock it out of the ballpark for me to commit to watching the entire season as a whole. I don't think it was a bad show. I was like, you've piqued my interest. There are things there's something here. I admit to it, but there's nothing here that was completely wowing me. And my free time, I feel like as I get older, gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And if I have to knock out TV shows for movies, I'll do that. And that's kind of where I've been really in the last like year or so. And so if the TV show just does not completely wow me like Ted Lasso has, if I don't really just jump right into it and I just don't feel latched on to the story or the characters or the actors that are giving it performances, yeah, it's quickly going to go to the wayside for me. But overall, it was intriguing. Not my favorite Superman, but not the worst. And I will say, like, I've seen a few of the episodes of him in Supergirl. I didn't see any of the Arrowverse crossover episodes. But yeah, I agree with you, Bobby. Like, they wrote him horrible, and the portrayal was just bad. It just didn't. I wasn't feeling him as Superman / Clark Kent. So it's kind of like, we'll see how it goes. And it was definitely better, for sure. It wasn't amazing, but it was definitely better. And I think it has to do with writing a lot. Yeah, the aspect of him as a father. Not just like a father of like young kids, like teenage angsty kids.
Right.
You know, one of them with a couple of developmental issues, especially like, what was it, social anxiety issues. And, these are things that Superman, he cannot relate to that. Like, he does not have these issues. He pretended to have some of these issues so that he wouldn't stand out too much in high school. But overall, like, he doesn't have problems. Like, he's Mr. All-American. And so, yeah, it's going to be interesting to try to relate with that son and character. But yeah, I'm interested. Episode 2 and 3 are going to have to really knock out the ballpark for me to fully commit to a season.
And I would say for me, I wouldn't say they'll have to knock it out of the park. I guess like I'm interested enough in DC characters and Superman that if it's good, I will probably continue to watch it. Like, if the next 2 episodes, like say the 3rd episode is just like, okay, I can quickly see this is just going to go downhill, then I'd stop. But if I would say if they continue to be on par with what we just watched in the first episode, I could see, for me, I'll probably finish it out just because I love Superman. And, for now, I'll take what I can get.
Yes.
That's so sad.
What we got?
I can understand that. Well, I mean, and that's the thing. I think that they did a really good job of balancing the two things. And I can't get over enough of how impressed I was by the special effects. I mean, there's so many times he's doing different Superman things that looked really good to me. I mean, whether it was him flying, picking up an iceberg, or just like even when
Picking up a
he's
pickup truck.
or even something super subtle, like there's a scene, without giving it away, he has to fly back to Smallville, and he flies back so fast, and he changes behind the barn, but it's a wide shot, so you just see him from behind the barn. He flies in and he walks out as he's running, and it's just subtle little things that it just looks so good. There's another scene that really I just had to rewind a few times where he was falling from the sky, and he stops like right before he hits the ground, but then before he takes off again, he like touches down, but just sort of touches down enough to bounce back up and fly. And it looks so good. I was just like, God, it's incredible the way they're making it look. And it's like, this is how it should look. And I want to see more of this not only on CW but on the big screen as well. So I really am hopeful for the series that it brings some more interest back to the character to where they say, yeah, we got to do something more with him on the big screen. And as it is, we did get some news that there might be some movement finally on Superman front in the movies. But, you know, we don't know exactly what form and shape that'll take just yet.
Right. Well, I mean, that's all I've really watched this past week.
That's all I've
Michelle, I
watched.
think that's the same for you. Bobby, anything else you wanted to bring up before we wrap things up here?
Not tonight. I think we can wrap it up. I'll
Yeah.
I'll definitely go into some more stuff when we have a little bit more time, because I have watched a few other things, and I imagine there'll be some new things to talk about as well once we record again.
Yeah, I mean, we got the finale of WandaVision coming up this coming weekend. I mean, we're doing this on
Coming
a
to
Monday.
America.
Yeah, we got that too. And, you know, by the way, we're recording this on a Monday night, and next weekend, at least for me, it will probably be the same situation. If we do an episode next weekend, it'll probably need to be Monday night. So
Yeah.
maybe it'll be another Monday night situation next week as well. And
Another
we'll
Monday.
have plenty to talk about then. But yeah, with that, we are going to wrap things up and get out of here. As always, we would love to hear back from everyone listening and watching. There's lots of ways to reach out to us. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure to comment or, ask any questions down below in the comment section. Make sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell icon to be notified whenever we post any videos or go live again in the future. You can reach out to us on Instagram and Twitter at Flickr_effect, and you can email us at feedback@flickereffect.com. With that, I'm David Lott.
I'm Bobby Jackson.
And I'm Michelle Hillard.
Thanks